Right, everyone, welcome back to another edition of the Athletes Hub. Back again with another weekly football roundup. A lot to talk about this week, and joining me as always is Mr. Flexx.
Yes, how we doing, Richard?
All good, Flexx, all good. How about yourself?
Yeah, can't complain. It's been a decent week of sport. Well, I can complain. I mean,
Surprisingly, you couldn't complain, man. You guys, we'll get into that, but I think you guys owe me an apology, to be honest. You owe me an apology. But before we start, guys, as always, listen, we're on a road to 100 subscribers. We're at 87 currently on YouTube. So again, if you haven't already, please subscribe, like, and engage with our content. Again, we're on Instagram. We're on TikTok now as well. So you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, go on YouTube, subscribe. Let's hit that 100 mark, guys. Let's hit that 100 mark. We're almost there. So a few more subs and we are well on our way. But yeah, Flexx, as you mentioned, a lot to talk about this week. Firstly, I think we've got to talk about the Ballon d'Or, which occurred last night. Ousmane Dembélé winning the award. I don't know. I mean, when you look at the rankings, as we can see on our screen now, were you surprised by that? Because I was surprised about how... I mean, firstly, do you agree with Dembélé winning the award? And secondly, do you agree with that ranking that we can see?
I mean, Dembélé winning the award it's not bad. It's not a bad thing. We've seen worse winners, but I would say Salah, I don't know what he has to do to get his hands on this Ballon d'Or, to be totally honest with you, because it just seems that they only take into account your performance in the Champions League and that's it. It doesn't count if you perform well in your league, in other cup competitions, the whole thing holistically, So for me, look, Dembélé had a great run in the Champions League, great performances here and there. So is he in there to be, a deserved winner? Yeah, possibly. I mean, Yamal, he was phenomenal. And at his age, you got to consider, well, should he have won as well? So it's Vitinha, third on the list, probably one of the best DMs, maybe if not the best DM in world football right now. If Rodri won it, then how does he not, have a good shout of winning it? Rafinha had a breathtaking season as well, scored well over 20 plus goals. His GA was amazing. So it's tricky, man. I'm not angry. I would say I'm not angry at Dembélé winning it, but at the same time, it leaves question marks for Salah and Yamal, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like Dembélé winning it again. I'm not going to argue against that because again, I think PSG winning the quadruple last season, he was essential in their journey to winning all four trophies, and that's a fact, particularly in the Champions League. But I think if you look at Yamal, if you look at not just last season, but if you go back to 2024 and Spain winning the Euros, he was essential in that tournament for them as well. So I feel like if Barcelona had beaten Inter Milan and gotten to the final and won the Champions League, I feel like Yamal would have won the Ballon d'Or because it would be hard to argue against a teenager being so influential on his national team and also in his club, Barcelona, then winning the Champions League and also the Euros. But I think, again, with Salah, we spoke about this before we came on. I'm surprised he is not higher in that ranking. I mean, fourth behind Vitinha is strange to me. You could make an argument for him and Yamal being second place or even first place, you said. But for him to be fourth on that ranking for me is bizarre, really, to be honest, because we spoke about Salah before on the podcast and how great he's been for the last 7-8 years in the Premier League. And his numbers, his stats, they just don't seem to slow. They don't seem to slow down. He's just getting better and better as time goes on, as he gets on in age as well. But if we make an argument for him not winning the Champions League or for them to kind of award Champions League winners only, I mean, Salah won the Champions League in 2019 and they beat Barcelona on the way to winning that Champions League final. And he had a great season that year. He had a great season in 2018-19. So it's surprising, as you mentioned, what has he got to do to kind of secure that trophy? And I think, again, Dembélé winning it is not a crime by any means, but I'm just surprised that Salah is not more in the conversation.
Yeah.
Looking at that ranking, you've got Cole Palmer in there, who's been great for Chelsea, but I don't know if Cole Palmer should be in that top 10, to be honest. He's been great in the Premier League, but I don't see...
I mean, I agree because, they weren't even in the Champions League.
Yeah.
So how does he make that list? Do you get what I mean? Like, he's a great talent and everything, but, how does he make the list if we are basically saying that the barometer for winning this thing is your participation in the Champions League. So you're telling me Palmer's in this list. It means then, you are considering league performances and things like that, which then means Salah should be much higher up the list.
So, plus, they won the league last season. Liverpool won the league last season as well, and he was instrumental in winning the Premier League last season.
Yeah,
we spoke about him. Is he going to stay or is he going to go? He's 32 years old now. Is he 33? I'm guessing 32, 33 years old. He's getting there in age, but he's still putting on the numbers. He's still putting in the performances. So for him to be fourth in that ranking for me is slightly strange. But also, when you look at the ranking as well, it might suggest to you right now in football, we're lacking those superstar players. Because Vinicius Jr. is not on that list right now. Jude Bellingham probably had a poor season by his standards last year. He's not on that list either. And Mbappe ranked 7th in that list. Obviously, him struggling to settle in at Real Madrid last season, not really hitting the heights we expected. So maybe football now is probably lacking that superstar player. But again, PSG were phenomenal last season, and Dembélé was key to them winning all those trophies last year. So that's not a surprise. But as you mentioned, if Salah's not going to be in a contention for it now, when is he going to be in contention for it?
Yes, well, it might be too late.
Yeah, true. But again, congrats to Dembélé, well-deserved, good player. I know he suffered with a lot of injuries, particularly at Barcelona, but he's come through that. It's become a great play for PSG. And again, last season was great, so he deserves that award for sure. But yeah, Premier League news now. I know they're going to get away with it. I'm sure, United fans will be a bit relieved, Amorim getting the win. And I know everyone was waiting for him to lose that game so they could talk about him losing his job, but that didn't happen. And again, listen, the narrative around the game last week was that United are a mess, Amorim's out of his depth, and Chelsea were doing quite well, and they're going to win the game quite easily, and that didn't happen. What did you make of the game, and were you surprised by the result? I know I texted you and I said to you, I'll give you like a little wink emoji, and you said to me, because Chelsea's record at Old Trafford is quite shocking. And I think the last time you guys have won there was probably 2013, I think.
That's right.
So, yeah, I mean, what was your thoughts on the game?
I mean, honestly, I never actually watched it because I was out supporting at an event. So it was literally the last 15 minutes I was able to catch on my phone. And from what I could see, at that point, it was already 10 versus 10, right? So I was like, whoa, what's happened over here? And having looked back and seen, Sanchez, I don't understand it. Why do we still have this guy in goal? I mean, I understand, it being a defensive mistake because, the centre back wasn't covering, the man who went to attack the ball. But stay in your area, give yourself a chance, And he's so rash. I'm glad he's banned for 3 games. We could do without him being there. Honestly, he's one of the worst signings we've possibly had. And I'm talking about in any position. He is one of the worst, and I don't understand.
Fresh, thing that surprised me, we look at Chelsea's teams historically when they're challenging for league titles and they've been successful. They've also had a top-class goalkeeper, whether that's Peter Cech, whether it was Courtois at one stage as well.
Yeah.
So I look at this Chelsea team, and we spoke about it before. As much as it's a great, maybe a footballing side, if you look at the teams of yesteryear at Chelsea, they had powerful players, professional players. In every position had world-class players. And Sanchez, for me, you look at even last season, some of the mistakes he made, I remember a game against Man City where he came out and I think Haaland scored over him. Just his decision making as a goalkeeper is quite strange. And people were saying, well, this is what they get what they deserve because they didn't go out in the summer and actually sign a proper goalkeeper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can agree to that. We had Mandanda on. Was it Mandanda? Is that the name of the guy? The French #1 goalkeeper. I don't think.
Yeah.
That must be the
something like that.
Something like that, right? And you had him. All they wanted was an extra 5 million. Bearing in mind, this club spends hundreds of millions on players. They didn't want to spend an extra 5 million to fix the most important position on the pitch. Then Donnarumma becomes available, and we're not even having that conversation. It's crazy. And then you come out to say we're very happy with Sanchez. He's our #1 goalkeeper for this season. I don't know what more else to say. I mean, being the fact that, okay, yes, it is difficult to go to Old Trafford. Yes, Man United, when they do play the bigger teams at Old Trafford, or just in general, they step up their level. You guys just have a problem with beating teams you should beat. But when it comes to playing against teams that everyone expects you to get beaten by, you step up a level, you find a gear, you find a way. So not surprised about the result. I'm just more surprised at the fact that constantly Maresca makes questionable decisions around his first 11, questionable decisions around the players that play in certain positions, and then questionable decisions about not upgrading on a position that is the most important position at the club. But I'm just a fan, so
yeah, it's strange. I mean, he took off. I think did Cole Palmer have an injury because he took him off quite early in that game in the
they're
first
gonna
half.
say that, right? They're gonna say he's injured. The boy ain't injured. He's not injured.
Well, if he's not injured, that was a strange. Because I'm thinking to myself, because obviously Casemiro got sent off just before half time, and you're thinking you're taking off all these attacking players and essentially going all out
Defensive.
defense, really. And I think he's Italian. I think in Italian football, they like to make sure, okay, we're down to 10 men now. Let's not concede again, and maybe we can get something going forward. But the problem was they took off all the attacking players, and when it was 10 against 10, Chelsea actually the second half didn't create too many chances, but you could tell because United are never gonna. It's weird because Amorim keeps on changing centre backs. I don't know why he does that. But you just felt like Chelsea were going to score because as comfortable as United can be in games, we saw that against Lyon last season. They're just going to they'll give you a chance and they'll concede goals, and we're still trying to find that that fix towards because you're playing 5 at the back, but we're still conceding goals, which is strange to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Chelsea, overall were quite disappointing based on what we expected to happen. But I think United 11 against 11 started off quite well, putting them under pressure, forced things. But as the game went on, you could tell that if Chelsea had kept on Cole Palmer, I feel like they would have maybe got something out of the game because, again, as much as we're playing 5 at the back, they're still going to give you an opportunity because they're not secure enough. They're not secure enough. So, but listen, for Amorim, it's another win under his belt. They've got Brentford on Saturday, so hopefully you can kick on with that. But again, as you mentioned, we're not going to be surprised if he goes to Brentford and not win because they just can't seem to get that consistency. Moving on to West Ham now. West Ham lost against Palace on Saturday. Another loss for Graham Potter. Just can't seem to find a win in the Premier League at the moment. Obviously, they beat Nottingham Forest, but lost all the games apart from that one, to be honest with you. And there's been talk about him maybe losing his job and maybe getting Nuno Espirito Santo to replace him. And I don't know, people were talking about Nuno coming into West Ham. Listen, I've watched the West Ham when they had Moyes. I've been to watch them. They've had Pellegrini, Lopetegui, and the West Ham fans are crying out for free-flowing attacking football. But them wanting Nuno to come in doesn't make sense to me because he's even more pragmatic than David Moyes was. Forest had probably in majority of the games last season at home probably had 20% possession at home. And the West Ham fans won't want that because they moaned about Moyes being quite negative. So having a manager, and again, but Nuno had the players. He had Elanga, he had Hudson-Odoi, he had the pace to play that football. But I just can't see West Ham fans being happy for long enough playing a pragmatic style of football because they've always been complaining about what free-flowing football. What's the fix at West Ham? What's the fix? What can they do to... Because right now they're odds on to be relegated this season. So what do you think they can do to kind of, start winning games?
I mean, for me, I think they just need to embrace who they are, and stop trying to be a team.
What is that?
Your team that is supposed to just be hard to beat and catches teams on a counter-attack. That's it. That's in your DNA. That's why Moyes was successful. We are not trying to be anything beyond that because you're not. You can't get the ball down and play fancy football, and it doesn't matter who you bring to the club. It's just within their DNA. Defend well, counter-attack, and score goals. How many times have they replaced the centre forward, right, with someone who is performing very well from wherever they came from? They come to West Ham and can't do nothing, and then they'll put Antonio, who is a winger, up front, and then it seems to work. And then he's the club's, all-time goal scorer. Nuno, I think, would work because he's going to bring that style of football, which is defend well, be hard to beat, counter-attack.
But they would argue and say that they had, at one point, they had Slaven Bilic, and before they moved to the Olympic Stadium, I think they finished, was it 6th in the 2015, when they had Dimitri Payet, Lanzini, Antonio played up there, Noble. They had a really good team an exciting team at that point. So they'll probably argue and say, well, we've had players like the Canio in the past. We even had that crop of players with Carrick, Joe Cole, Rio breaking in the team where it was exciting time to Jermaine Defoe. So as much as you're saying that the DNA is to not attack and play good football, they might say, well, we've had that in the past with other managers.
And where did that end you?
Relegation.
Is this all I can say, right? You know, when you played that pragmatic football under David Moyes, where did that get you? Right? You know, first trophy in how many years? You know, your only European Cup. You know, embrace who you are. That's what you are. That's who you are. You know, if we bring in Everton, because we're talking about David Moyes, you know, that brand of football has gone over there, and Everton look so much better. You know, not much has changed beyond adding Jack Grealish to the team, you know, and look how well they're playing. So embrace who you are. You're not meant to be a free-flowing footballing side that can cut teams open and pass teams to death. That's not who you are. You know, you're low block, get the ball to the fast guys, get it in the box and score. That's what you do. And just to that.
I think that's probably the players, you know, they kind of bought the club, they kind of suited to playing that. So obviously Kudus left, went to Tottenham, and he was really essential in David Moyes' team, where he essentially led the counter-attack, really, because of his pace and his power as a footballer. Do you think that Graham Potter lasts until the end of the season, or can you see them making a change?
Nah, they're gonna have to make a change, man. Graham Potter he's done. You know what I mean? He can't save that team, and they need probably a fresh direction. And it's sad to say because he's only just got here, but it's not working. So they're gonna have to make a change. He's in the same boat as, you know, some of the other managers, like for example, Unai Emery at Villa. He's not having a great run. You know, I think they just only last weekend scored their first goal. Crazy, right? You know what I mean? You know, and then you're looking at Wolves. You know, they're having problems. You know, they haven't had a win and it's conceded 9+ goals. You know, it's crazy. You know, all of these guys are in my opinion, on the chopping board, because how are teams like Leeds and Everton outperforming you? Sunderland, you know, how are they outperforming you? Crystal Palace, how are they outperforming you? You know.
Yes, true. I mean, probably the biggest surprise would probably be the Villa drop-off, how bad they've been. But again, we spoke about it last week when them losing some of their key players, and they sold them. Ramsey and Duran left at that time as well, and they've not been able to really kind of replace those players, and it's been difficult. They brought in Jadon Sancho, but he's not really again shown anything just yet. But talking about another team you mentioned there, Wolverhampton Wanderers, just below West Ham, no wins, 5 losses out of 5. Vitor Pereira came out before the Leeds game and said that it was a must-win for them, but they ended up losing 3-1. And I remember when he came in last season when Gary Neal got sacked. Gary Neal was struggling with the team. They were conceding goals left, right, centre, particularly on set pieces. Pereira came in and changed it. They got a bit of a bounce and managed to stay up, because before that they were odds-on favourites to be relegated. But Pereira came in. They got the home form was really good last season, and he managed to keep them up. But since them surviving, they've not really kicked on from there. And I know Max Kilman went to West Ham, and Neto went to Chelsea, your club, and Cunha went to Man United. But it just seems as if when you look at the Wolverhampton Wanderers team, they haven't got that squad to be able to play they haven't got that squad to cope. And don't forget, Strand Larson almost went to Newcastle United as well. They put in a bid for him that was rejected. You know, if they would have lost him, you know, Wolves probably would have been odds-on favourites to go down, because right now they're struggling to create chances. Defensively, as you mentioned, all over the place right now. So remember a time when Wolverhampton Wanderers were a team where you don't want to go to the Molineux, because they had that crop of Portuguese players: Neves, Moutinho, Traore, Neto, Jota up front, Jimenez, a really good team. But they've just lost all of that now. So would you consider them favourites to go down this season?
Yeah, I mean, at this moment, they looks like they are. I mean, it's actually quite bad, and who knows when their fortunes will change. You know, it's not impossible. I mean, it's not like the gap to get out of this relegation zone is like an immense, you know, hole you've dug for yourself. You know, 2 wins and you're out. You know, win and a draw and you're out. You know, it's not too difficult, right? But the question is when. You know, if we get deep into that November time and you're still in, you know, that relegation zone, especially 20th, you know, you're about primed and ready to be relegated, in my opinion.
Well, look at it, Flexx. Look at the goal difference, -9 already. We're not even in October yet. You're a -9 goal difference. You're talking about you're getting 2 wins, but sometimes remember, this is a very long league. You get to a point where sometimes goal difference matters. Goal difference can either keep you up or it can relegate you. So if you've started off the season so badly, you've considered all these goals already, you might get those couple of wins. But the biggest issue a lot of these teams have is keeping the ball at the back of the net. And West Ham are struggling at set pieces. Wolverhampton are conceding left, right, centre. So if you're at -9, there's one thing losing games, right? But if you're in a situation where you're conceding all these different goals, you might win games, but if you keep conceding goals, it's going to leave you in trouble because teams will know they can get at you, right? Whereas if you're solid defensively, just like teams like Stoke City were at one point, even Fulham under Roy Hodgson, Sam Allardyce's teams, they were hard to break down. So they always had a chance, right? Because the defense was quite good and it was quite strong. Whereas these teams now, everybody wants to play football. Everyone wants to play up from the back, and they're kind of neglecting that defensive. So I don't know, that defensive aspect of teams now. It's kind of gone out the window. And teams like Wolverhampton Wanderers and West Ham, they're trying to play that brand of football. But as you mentioned, keep it basic, bring it back to basics, don't concede, be better at set pieces, and that gives you a chance. But a lot of these teams now are just neglecting that. And you're at -9 goal difference right now. I mean, you're digging yourself a massive hole so early on.
It's crazy, right?
You know what I mean? So remains to be seen. But one performance that stood out last week was Marcus Rashford. We spoke about it before, and you highlighted his result, or his performance against Newcastle away from home. A very good win for Barcelona against a very good Newcastle team. 2 great goals from Rashford. And I remember you said to me as well that this is what happens when you leave Man United, you become a great player again. But I mean, I looked at the result and I looked at his performance and I thought, this is what we know he can do. We know he's capable of these performances, but he just didn't produce it for whatever reason, right? But then again, after that performance, we find that he's dropped in the next game due to him being late to a team meeting or something. So he's got this talent, he's got the capability, we know what he can do. But this is not the first time that his disciplinary has been called into question, because under United, he got dropped by Ten Hag for missing the team meeting.
It's late.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, yes, he's got all this talent, but is he really going to self-sabotage his career by being ill-disciplined in these situations?
Hey, it's possible because, if the shoe fits, right, at this point, you've been called in again, and it just seems like whenever things are going good for him, that's when he decides to slack. You see what I mean? And then that's where, the lateness and, whatever comes into play. Look, man, he needs to really, take this opportunity he's got with both hands, because there won't be an opportunity like this again if he sabotages this one.
Oh, Flex, can we really make an excuse for, in this day and age now, modern footballers, can you really still be late?
No,
when you've got all these alarms on your phone, you've got all these notifications.
Dude.
You're at Barcelona. You're trying to revive your career, and you're late to team meetings. I mean, come on, think about it. Can we really still use that?
No, we can't give excuses. But have you seen the Now Ranger interview where he's always been late? He decided to actually get to the training ground, right, early. So he's been there 3-4 hours early, fell asleep in his car, right, and still was late. And he was at the training ground before everyone else. So this goes to tell you the type of characters we're dealing with, right? They're not living in the real world. Let's be honest, because at the end of the day, only if you're late a few times in your normal job, you'll be reprimanded, and the fear of, losing your job and, having to be back on the job market and this, that, and the other. That's not the same fear that you have when you're a footballer. Do you see what I mean? What, your contract's going to be terminated and they're going to have to pay you out millions? Happy days. Do you see what I mean? It's not the same thing.
It's true. But again, I feel like you've still got that reputation, because again, someone like Marcus, we spoke about Now Ranger, and he's always struggled in his career to really show his talent on a consistent basis for outside problems or his attitude or whatever it might have been. But look at someone like Marcus Rashford, who is trying to essentially rebuild his reputation in football. He's been criticised for his attitude at United towards the end of his time there, and you're at Barcelona. You've got a move, by the way. A lot of people criticised and said he didn't deserve it. You're here now to prove all of us wrong. You've had a great performance in midweek in the Champions League on the biggest stage against Newcastle United, and then you're late and you get dropped. I mean, I don't get it. It's like, you can't keep self-sabotaging. And again, you being late, you should be excited. You should be up every single day. I'm at Barcelona. I'm going to keep proving what I can do. I'm going to get in there. I'm surrounded by world-class footballers. I'm going to fit in here. I'm not going to give people a reason to criticize me. And that's what he's done. And that's what he's always done that, Marcus. The guy's got talent. And people say, well, he's United. No, it's not. No, he, under various managers, struggled for form. Under Solskjaer, Rangnick, had one good season under Ten Hag and then fell off again. And obviously under Amorim was non-existent. You're now at Barcelona Football Club, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and you're being dropped for being late because you slept in. I mean,
do you know what it is? I said it in the previous podcast. Rashford plays for contracts. He doesn't play for, having a great footballing career. He's probably not one to think, I want to win the Ballon d'Or one day. Do you see what I mean? Like, he's not in it for that. Do you see what I mean? So he's made a mistake. He came on as a sub and got the assist, right? And he's going to probably put in a blinding run of games for this season, get into the England squad for the World Cup, have a great competition so that he can get the contract at Barcelona. The moment he gets that contract is the moment he falls off because he plays for the contract. That's it. So let's see how it goes.
You'll see how it goes, but again, I feel like we all know the guy's got the ability. He'll get an England squad because when he's fit and running, we haven't got many forwards like Marcus Rashford who can do what he can do on his day. So he'll definitely get in that squad. He'll play the game for sure because they need options. But I just hope that for his sake, because people, again, he's got a lifeline here now. And the likes of Jadon Sancho and Garnacho, they all went to other clubs, but you're at Barcelona now, the club that people said that you didn't deserve to be at because of your time at Man United. You didn't deserve it. You're not at that level. You prove it in a way that you can do it because you did it against Newcastle. You've had games for Barcelona this season where you've done really, really well. But we're just struggling for that consistency, that attitude. And if you're coming out, and my point is that don't give people a reason to criticize you because they're out for you already. They want you to not do well. They want you to fail. So don't give them that reason to come back in and say, this guy slept in when he was meant to go to Team in for Barcelona Football Club. You're sleeping in 2025. No. And these professional footballers now are meant to be the best professionals ever. They've got all these dietitians, they've got these personal trainers, they've got all these schedules. There's really no excuse, to be honest with you. So I just hope he doesn't sabotage himself this time around because I want him to do well. I like Marcus. I think he's a good player. I think he's a good guy as well. But just don't give people a reason to kind of come at you with this because it's so avoidable. Do you know what I mean?
It is incredibly avoidable, but he is what he is. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, Marcus, just get a new alarm clock or something. Get a new alarm clock because the one you've got now is not working, obviously.
It's not.
All right, to finish off, Lex, Arsenal, Man City, interesting game. People spoke about Arteta being quite negative in his approach for these big games. I mean, how did you see the game? And do you agree with people's take on Arteta that he's too negative and he should really take the handbrake off, as they say?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're at home, right? The onus is on you to go out there and win the game. The onus is on you to put your stamp down. You've already lost a big one, this season against Liverpool away. So this is not a game where you're looking to drop points, So the opportunity was there. City haven't been at their best, to be honest, and so you've got to take the ball by the horns and maybe not so early on. You want to feel out the game, see where you are, but the moment you get to 1-0 down, maybe 55, 60 minutes on the clock, you've really got to open up the game. You really got to go for it and, put your flag down. Right now, it's advantage Liverpool. Both teams have dropped points, and so for me, you've put yourself in a much more difficult position because you're thinking about not losing as opposed to thinking about winning.
But do you think that it's not? Don't you think it's still a bit early though? Think about it. Isn't it more like a point game though? Because if they lost that game, I would have agreed with you. But because they got that point, do you think that point could be vital towards the end of the season?
Nah, I mean, I look at it because you're at home. It can't be a point gain. To me, it's 2 points lost because you're at home. If you're away, it's a point gained. Do you see what I mean? Because when you're away, you either want to draw or win. But when you're at home, you want to win or draw. Do you see what I mean? Like either way, a loss is non-negotiable, at home or away. So for me, already, the gap is 5 points. 5 games in and you're 5 points behind. Again, it's nothing crazy, but Liverpool haven't even got into gear yet. They haven't even found their form. So what happens when they do? And at that time they come over to the Emirates and go to other places, and they are actually on form. What happens then? So we'll see. I think he should have definitely been more, not gung-ho, but just, more attacking. When he could see City were going more defensive, he should have brought in more offensive players, to get the game done, But
yeah, I think he realised a mistake. I think he brought on Saka and Eze at half-time, and he probably realised I probably made a mistake here. I should have gone for it more. But I still feel like, I don't know what you think, but I still feel like Arsenal will win the league, because you mentioned Liverpool and how they've not got into gear yet. But the thing that concerns me about Liverpool is that they've won too many games by 1-goal margin. They're conceding goals, and you can't keep doing that. And the game that kind of raised alarm bells for me was when they went to Newcastle and they're winning 2-0, and Newcastle came back with 10 men, and they won the game. But you can't keep doing that in the Premier League. Eventually, you're going to get found out. And I think with Arsenal, they've got a solid base where when they get in front, it's hard to break them down. And I can't see them conceding as many goals as Liverpool do. And Liverpool winning games, they're getting away with it now. But we're talking about a 38-game season there, and they can't keep doing that. I think they'll get found out. Whereas if Arsenal, if they can avoid injuries, I know we found out today that Madueke is out until November. But if they can avoid injuries, Arsenal have a really solid base and a good squad of players. And I feel like they've got probably the right balance in their team. And that's why I feel like they'll probably win the league. But I agree with you. They can't keep dropping points. These are the games they've got to go out and they've got to win. They've got to make a statement. Arteta's basically right now last chance to lose now. He's got to win a trophy. If he doesn't win a trophy, then there's no more excuses. do you know what I'm trying to say? So he'll know that as well. He'll know that. But when you're signing Eze, and don't forget, by the way, Eze was only signed because Havertz got injured. Yeah. That's the reason they signed him. So Arsenal are not going to suddenly change their style of play or change. Because somebody said to me the other day, we should be creating more chances because we've got Gyökeres now. I'm like, Gyökeres is only there to convert the chances that Havertz missed last season. He's a guaranteed goal machine if you get in the service, right? But Arsenal's style of play won't change that much because they've got Eze and Gyökeres. They're still going to do what they've been doing for the last few seasons. The only difference is now, again, is that they've got somebody in there who can convert chances when he's given the chances that Havertz maybe missed last season. So things won't change that much. But yeah, it remains to be seen what happens. But I think Arsenal have a really good chance to win the league this season.
They do. Yeah. They've got a good chance, but we'll see how it all plays out. We will see. We'll be right there.
Yeah, as always, weekly will be there, man. But listen, Flexx, it's been great to talk to you as always. Again, guys, subscribe. Almost 100 subscribers now. Help us get there. Don't forget to engage with our content on Instagram and TikTok now as well. And let us know in the comments what you think about our views today. Should Amorim still be there? Do you agree with Dembélé winning the Ballon d'Or award? Will West Ham be relegated? What about Wolverhampton Wanderers? And also Marcus Rashford. I know this is a bit of a touchy subject. Everyone's got their opinion on Marcus. But like I mentioned before, the guy's got potential, but just don't sabotage yourself. So let us know what you think about our comments, our views in the comment section below. As always, Flexx, see you here again next week.
Yes, sir, man. Take care.
You too, man.
Cheers.